That is one big pile of shit.
My old friend, I've come to talk.
Okay, enough with the melodrama and me looking like a generic Geeks and Gamers thumbnail. Let's get this over with. The fact that in the year that I started doing movie reviews, me giving the first Jurassic World a straight 5 out of 5 just goes to show you how stupid, naive, and blinded by dinosaur fandom I truly was back then. Thankfully, in years' time, I realized how nonsensical that entire movie was, and the rating for this movie is much, much lower. Where the characters are making lucky or ridiculous decisions for the plot to proceed, and let's just not forget the beloved side plot of Vincent D'Onofrio's character trying to spread the word about militarizing the dinosaurs. If I'm gonna be completely honest, do I still like that climatic fight at the end based on its cheesiness alone? You freaking bet I did! But it still doesn't save this movie from 2 hours of sheer stupidity. The second film, Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, was not only even worse than the first one by an inconceivable margin, but it was also pretty disappointing because J.A. Bayona directed my pick for the best film of 2016 and one of my favorite movies of the past decade, A Monster Calls. However, I don't think it was J.A. Bayona's fault for that catastrophe, as Derek Connolly and Colin Trevorrow's writing was solely to blame. The problems from the past film with the script and the characters are amplified times 9 in Fallen Kingdom, including conflicting continuity from the original Jurassic Park, poorly written cliches, and pandering nostalgia that just has to remind you every single time on screen about your favorite dinosaur film from 1993. And so at last, after these movies generated billions of dollars at the box office, we have come to the arrival of the third, and hopefully this is the final film, of the Jurassic World trilogy. Ladies, gentlemen, boys and girls, dino nerds of all ages, lend me your ears. For years, especially when it comes to the early 2010s all the way to the present, we have become exposed to gratuitous nostalgic pandering and vacuous made-by-committee filmmaking. But Jurassic World Dominion is the finest example of corporate cynicism that I have not seen since the releases of Mortal Kombat 2021, The Amazing Spider-Man 2, the Transformers franchise, and much more mungled, messy, money-mongering monstrosities that I can think of the top of my head. Hey, that was alliteration back there. It's a prehistoric misfire on every single level of movie making, and it's an affront not only to the original movie in 1993, but it is an insult to somebody like me, someone who's loved dinosaurs, who've read books, who've watched TV shows and documentaries, and even movies on the big screen about them. But to prove just how much of an abomination this film truly is, let's sink our teeth into the carcass of Dominion. 4 years have passed since the dinosaurs have been released in North America and in other parts of the globe. You can thank this character for winning the Darwin Award of 2018, but don't worry, we're gonna get to her later. Some have been attacking families, eating or being eaten by other modern animals, nesting on skyscrapers, or being sold on the black market by poachers and dealers. Now here's the thing, that's the premise. The plot, or more exactly, the plots of this film are this. Owen and Claire are taking care of Maisie, the little girl from the last movie, in the Sierra Nevada area, where Blue, Owen's trained velociraptor, just so happens to be nearby with her baby velociraptor. All is civilized until Maisie and Blue's baby have been abducted by poachers, which Owen and Claire soon realize are being taken to a scientific organization named Biosyn. The same company that scientists Ellie Sattler and Ian Malcolm believe are running a corporate conspiracy of them using giant locusts to destroy independent crops so that way customers would have to buy the Biosyn product instead. Oh yeah, and Dr. Alan Grant's in the movie too, by the way. And thus, our new and old heroes must stop Biosyn from not only trying to do whatever they want to do with Maisie and Blue's baby, but to stop them from achieving their mischievous, greedy project. I'm sorry. You thought this was about dinosaurs running loose, right? And how the world is supposed to handle it? Well, Sorry, pal. This movie is about something entirely different, and the dinosaurs are basically reduced to the background or action plot devices. So yeah, the whole prologue that was featured on YouTube that looked like something that was actually legitimately promising, like a solid documentary of sorts, or the setup of dinosaurs swarming across America and other parts of the world in Fallen Kingdom, not in the movie whatsoever. Still thinking about watching this movie? Well, while I'm in a mood to rant, are there any positives I have to say before I dive right into this thing? Okay. The practical effects, for part of it, are pretty okay. As with nearly every single Jurassic Park movie, the filmmakers would use animatronics on the dinosaurs, particularly in instances where they're interacting with the human characters. We would get close-up shots of characters petting a baby Triceratops, another with a young Placerius, and for a few seconds they looked really alright. But then you would get to the part where the characters confront Dimetrodons, and the models and the movements for them are so stiff and awkward, it looks like something that you would see in a Universal Studios attraction, like Jurassic World the ride. And the same thing would apply with the CGI for the dinosaurs. Much in line with the practical effects, you would have some visual effects that are moderately solid, but at other times you can imagine the actor staring in front of a green screen model of a dinosaur combined with the hideously noticeable composition, especially in scenes involving Owen making a promise to Blue to get her baby back. Alright, I'm done being nice. Let's move on to this avalanche of crap. I'm not kidding when I talk about this narrative. This movie doesn't have any idea what kind of story it wants to present. It's running on too many plot lines all at once that it becomes a jumbled, overly messy, and even boring film that lacks a central focus. It first starts off with, how are we going to handle with dinosaurs running rampant across America? And then it's reduced to nothingness, and it's all about the kidnapping plot. And then it becomes a Jason Bourne Mission Impossible movie. And then it becomes about giant locusts. And then it becomes a movie about corporate espionage. It's not just disjointed beyond measure and has nothing to do with dinosaurs for most of the movie, but my god, the contrivances and coincidences in this movie are unbelievable. So you ask? I have a list. The cartoon villains we call poachers are in Sierra Nevada, which just so happens to be where Owen, Blue, Maisie, and her child are to execute their plan. Not to mention how lucky they were that Maisie would get herself kidnapped because of her own stupidity. It's also convenient that Franklin, who's known for being an IT technician and also a hacker, out of millions of jobs, just so happens to be working for the CIA to help Owen and Claire find the guy who kidnapped Maisie. But this right here is the biggest one. Those are sweet potatoes. While on the search for Maisie and Malta, Claire just so happens to run into a former Air Force pilot who just so happens to know what Maisie looks like as she's being abducted by the poachers, who just so happens to be a Biosyn cargo pilot and would be willing to take him to the facility that she works for without even negotiating a price. When characters walk into very top secret confidential labs where they experiment on the locusts, security is absolutely barren. An employee at Biosyn just so happens to be working for the good guys to destroy the villain's scheme. You get the idea. And if you thought that the acting and the recurring characters from the original were going to save the day, I hate to be the bearer of bad news for people who are wanting to see this movie for that exact reason alone, but for most of these actors, this was nothing but a paycheck to them. Sam Neill performs with such little engagement and investment, and his accent keeps on slipping so many times that you can just feel him looking at the exit sign, waiting for the scene to end. Jeff Goldblum and Laura Dern are absolutely wasted and going through the motions as the film progresses. And the same can be applied for the Jurassic World members like Bryce Dallas Howard and Justice Smith, who is back in this movie, who has removed his annoying rampant screaming. Thank God in heaven. But the negative is that his performance, it just feels so uninvested and devoid of any interest about anything that is going on in this movie. And I don't blame him. And even for a guy that just injects so much charisma in even the worst of movies, Chris Pratt just feels so tired in this. Through even his delivery, he phones it in, and every single time he's in a scene involving dinosaurs, the film would basically make him do his trademark halt the velociraptor or halt the dinosaur using his hand in front of him. He doesn't only do this to raptors of any breed, and not only do some of the characters in the movie do it as well, but when it comes to him trying to steady a Carnotaurus and an Allosaurus, both of which are apex predators, you might as well take your brain and throw it in the garbage. There's no way that the dinosaurs would just halt at him like this for just about 10 seconds. They would just bisect him automatically. Like, there's no way that's happening. In my Fallen Kingdom review, I have mentioned that Isabella Sermon is perhaps the best actress of the whole film and was practically the only character that I even cared about. That wasn't until that stupid decision at the end she just made, but still. And while she is quite alright in this film, it's the script that weighs her down significantly. Maisie Lockwood in this movie is the most petulant, snarky brat imaginable, being completely disrespectful to her foster parent, Claire. Also, she feels no kind of regret or responsibility of her decision at the end of the last movie. Lest we forget that this festering pile of wasted celluloid predicates on this girl's imbecilic decision to release all of the dinosaurs because she relates to them as she is a clone like they are. Oh yeah, the twist of her being a clone in the last movie, utterly pointless. You could have taken it out of the film and the movie wouldn't have been any different. But the worst part is that not only does Colin Trevorrow double down on this subplot and twist, but he also inserts a retcon in this movie that is about as baffling as him trying to make the comparison of the Giganotosaurus in this movie to the Joker. Colin, it's a dinosaur. A freaking dinosaur. In terms of new actors in this movie, we have Campbell Scott playing Lewis Dodgson from the first movie. Remember Lewis Dodgson? Yeah, so did I. Here we have an extremely minor character from the first movie who is now becoming the biggest cartoonish corporate villain of this piece, with his direction being best summarized as him acting like an evil Steve Jobs or acting eccentric at random intervals for no particular reason. While Scott himself is legitimately a good actor, his material is nothing but a trope. Not to mention that his plan lacks any kind of logic. He's using locusts to control the world's food supply just so that he can get rid of certain crops from businesses that aren't laced with his biosyn seed, so that way people can go ahead and buy his product. That's not how competition even works, and also, why haven't other businesses and even the government not figured this out already? But don't mind that, folks. Look, dinosaur entertainment. Come see our movie. And speaking of which, the action is just nothing but blind spectacle. In isolation, the motorcycle chase looks really fun until you realize that the velociraptors can run at the exact same pace as the motorcycle that Chris Pratt's on. But when it comes to chasing down Claire, who's not even as fast as an Olympic sprinter, its speed is reduced and all of a sudden it slips and becomes clumsy for no apparent reason. And then when it's about to get her, oh, just misses her foot by just a hair. Other examples include Claire and her dinosaur assistants running away from poachers into a herd of ceratopsians, and not one of them goes for their car and instead only hits the bad guys. That is the entirety of the action scenes in a nutshell. If you are a protagonist, you will have plot armor that defies logic. But if you are just some dumb extra or a villain, you should expect to die. And even when your climactic dinosaur showdown has to rely on Deus Ex Machinas, contrivances, and second winds in order for your payoff to happen, you know you made something soulless. And I cannot end with this without saying how doubly stupid the ending of this movie is. Spoiler alert for anybody who cares. There is a character that states that the best way for humanity to handle these prehistoric beasts that have been rampant across North America is to, wait for it, coexist with them. I'm sorry, but when we just had a T-Rex eat people in San Francisco in The Lost World, a Mosasaurus eat a guy while surfing in Fallen Kingdom, and capsizing a boat in the beginning of the movie full of fishermen, you have to be absolutely insane to believe that the best bet for us is to coexist with them. But hey, at least the dinosaurs get to live in the bad guys' organization as a dinosaur sanctuary in the Dolomite Mountains. Never mind the fact that Isla Sorna Site B is still a place that exists that we could have distributed the dinosaurs to all along since Fallen Kingdom. Ugh. Guys, what else can I say about Jurassic World Dominion? It is cinematic guano and a pure insult to the Jurassic franchise. It's a film that I struggle to find any other redeeming value other than just a couple of decent performances and up to par practical effects. But then again, I don't even know if that is enough to carry a movie that is 2.5 hours long. There isn't a great style of direction, some decent aspects of cinematography, a character I liked, a piece of the score that didn't sound like nostalgia bait, an interesting line of dialogue that didn't feel like exposition or something badly written altogether. The worst part is that all the wonder and awe about the original Jurassic Park, which made me want to study dinosaurs in the first place, is now null and void. They are now a license to print money and an excuse to shove popcorn in your mouth for entertainment, rather than just giving you something that is full of joy, knowledge, and fear that is earned to audiences and critics alike. I will now end this review by channeling one Dr. Ian Malcolm. I'll tell you the problem, Colin Trevorrow, when it comes to establishing this franchise that you have. It didn't require any discipline to attain it, or writing it, or producing it. You saw what Spielberg has done, and then you took the next step. You didn't earn the knowledge, or the characters, or the writing, or even the themes to yourself, so you don't take any responsibility for it. You stood on the shoulders of a genius that brought dinosaurs to the big screen to produce something as fast as you could. And before you even knew what you had, you patented it, packaged it, slapped a Jurassic World logo on an IMAX poster, and even on the big silver screen, just so that any consumer can watch it and ignore what made the first Jurassic Park movie so compelling in the first place. Because as we learned from recent blockbusters, it doesn't matter about the quality, only if it makes money, right? Because when it comes to rebooting a franchise, or even ending a franchise, Colin, you were so preoccupied with whether or not you could, you just didn't stop to think if you should. Whew, thankfully, this is the last movie of this franchise. But who knows? Greed always finds a way. My name is Luke Nukem, and people deserve better than this.
I'm not making the same mistakes again.
No, you're making all new ones.